My name is Phil Cavalier, and for those who don't know me, I serve as Provost and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs here at UT Martin. On behalf of Chancellor Carver, who can't be with us today, I'd like to welcome you as we break ground for the Latimer Engineering and Science Building, which, as you see behind me, is already underway. Welcome to all of you, especially our STEM faculty, staff, and students who are joining us virtually today for this historic event for UT Martin. As we begin, I'd like to recognize several distinguished guests who are joining us today for this celebration. If you would please wave when I call your name, and then we'll applaud after all the names are read. Governor Bill Lee and First Lady Maria Lee, Randy Boyd, President of the UT System, Mike Krause, Executive Director of the Tennessee Higher Education Commission, Bill and Carol Latimer, the friends and family of the Latimers who are here today, Mr. and Mrs. Kyle Latimer, Reverend Jimmy Latimer, Mr. and Mrs. John Warner, Mr. and Mrs. Mark Lane, Mr. and Mrs. Philip Creswell, Al Oliver, John Morris Miles, Justin Hines. With us as well are several legislators and elected officials who have helped with this project. Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally, Representative Andy Holt, Ed Jackson III, District Director in Congressman David Kustoff's office, Senator John Stevens, Representative Mark White, the Chair of the House Education Committee, Senator Ken Yeager, City of Martin Mayor Randy Brundage, Weakley County Mayor Jake Bynum. We also have friends from the UT system and from the community with us today. Anthony Haynes, UT Vice President for Government Relations and Advocacy. David Mills from the Office of Government Relations and Advocacy. Austin Oakes, Executive Director of UT Capital Projects. Robert Smith, UT Martin Chancellor Emeritus. Nick Dunnigan, UT Martin Chancellor Emeritus. And Art Sparks, Chair of the UTM Advisory Board. Now, if there are other members of the advisory board, would you just wave so we can recognize you? Finally, I'd like to welcome the members of the Chancellor's Cabinet and the 6 academic deans who are here. Let's give them all a round of applause. Before we move to the remarks, let me provide just a little bit of background about this project. The 120,000 square foot, 3-story Latimer Engineering and Science Building is being dedicated in honor of the Latimer family, specifically Bill Latimer, who donated the $6.5 million needed to receive state funding for the $65 million project in 2016, which at the time of his gift was the largest single gift since university records have been kept. This facility will provide new space for departments of chemistry and physics, computer science, engineering, mathematics and statistics, and the pre-professional health sciences program. The building will also include teaching laboratories, 19 classrooms, and a small observatory. The building will greatly increase the amount of space available for students and faculty to collaborate and conduct research, and it creates significantly more space for students to pursue research projects. Education is one of the most important ways of breaking the cycle of poverty, and I know Mr. Latimer hopes that this engineering and science building will help to raise the standard of living for those who get their engineering degree here at UT Martin. I'm excited that today we will finally get to celebrate Mr. Latimer's gift to the university and recognize the effect it will have on STEM education at UT Martin. We at UT Martin see this building as a cornerstone for providing the STEM education needed to develop the workforce in our region. A 2016 economic impact study conducted by economic modeling specialists projected that the building's overall economic impact will add $56.3 million in income and create 901 jobs from initial construction through the first 10 years of UTM graduating classes. The study also showed that West Tennessee will gain an additional $1.6 million in added income from the impact of its graduates in building operations. State Representative Andy Holt sponsored the match reduction bill in the House, and the match reduction dropped from 25% to 10% for UT Martin, a project that was led by State Senator John Stevens, and at the time was the first of its kind in Tennessee government. In June 2019, the communications building on the southeast corner of the existing historic quadrangle was demolished in preparation for the beginning of construction, which started in earnest earlier this year. The Latimer Engineering and Science Building will serve as a bridge between the existing historic quad and what will become a future quad in the overall UTM campus master plan. We've been watching the construction progress on webcams on campus, and we look forward very much to the day when this is completed and we can move in. I want to thank our physical plant operations team, for all of the work they've done to advance this project, and I'd also like to briefly mention the architects and other members of the design teams who have been a daily part of this building's construction, and once again, please wave. From the Smith Group, we have design architects Bill Ash and Tricia Beck. From EMJ Corporation, we have Matt Fugate, Vice President of Operations, and Adam Graves, Senior Project Manager. Chris Edwards joins us from DePau Engineering. From TLM Architects, Architect of Record Frank Wagster, Project Manager Lisa Deaton, and Randy McKinnon, President. Richie Smith from Richie Smith Associates and Mike Bilderbeck from Pickering are also with us. And now President Boyd will bring some remarks.
Thank you, Provost Cavalier. Well, this will be the greatest decade in the history of the University of Tennessee. And it cannot be the greatest decade in the history of the University of Tennessee unless University of Tennessee Martin also has its greatest decade. And this is the beginning of the decade, and I can't imagine a better way of kicking off this decade than the groundbreaking of the Latimer Engineering and Science Building. What a beautiful day and what an exciting day for all of the University of Tennessee and for this region. So we're so excited to be here. I just want to say a few thank yous. First, we need to thank the visionaries. We had Chancellor Carver here today to be with us, but without his leadership, none of this would be possible. He's sorely missed, but I know he's watching somewhere, and we really want to thank him for his leadership and his vision in helping to create this, and his team, Provost Cavalier, and the person that's going to be leading the new Latimer Engineering and Science Building, Dean Shadow Robinson, who's here with us today. Didn't recognize him when I first saw him. Every time I've ever seen him, he's wearing a leather jacket, and but he's now wearing a suit and tie, so it's great to see that you can dress up. He didn't recognize me either because I was wearing a tie for the first time since we've known each other. But looking forward to your leadership and with this new great facility. I want to thank all of those that helped provide the funding for this. The state of Tennessee was critical in their leadership. I want to thank our governor, Governor Lee, for his support of this project. We want to thank Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally. We've got a lot of other distinguished leaders within the legislature here today. Senator Ken Yeager flew down with us today from Oak Ridge. Turns out he's not from Oak Ridge. He's from Northwest Tennessee and graduated from the University of Tennessee Martin. So he's had fond memories of this place for many years, a great supporter of the University of Tennessee. We've already mentioned Senator John Stevens, who has done such a tremendous job in making sure this happened. Representative Andy Holt, Mark White, our chairman of education. None of this could have happened with without all of these great leaders. So thank you guys for your financial support and your passion support, and for the University of Tennessee. And then finally, of course, we need to thank the Latimers, for Bill and Carol, for your commitment to Northwest Tennessee, to education, and the University of Tennessee. I first heard about the Latimers when I was a Boy Scout. I was a Boy Scout master for 17 years, and at the camp that I went to in Camp Buck Tom's, we had these canvas tents with holes and big spiders, and it was not the best camp, but we made the best of it. But the Taj Mahal of Boy Scout camps in Tennessee was the Latimer Boy Scout camp, and I always wanted to go there. I thought, who was this Mr. Latimer that helped endow this great Boy Scout camp? And I found out later, a few years ago, it was Bill Latimer from Union City. And why would he invest in a Boy Scout camp in the middle of the state? It was because of his strong Christian faith and his belief in youth development. He made that commitment. And I thought, what an inspiration. I look forward to meeting him one day. Then, when I got this particular job, I got to find out all the other things he's done in this part of the state. He also, as many of you know, helped create a dental clinic in Union City that's doing tremendous work for our students, giving them a great internship and an opportunity to learn, but also providing great care for people throughout this region of the state. And then now this great gift to the University of Tennessee Martin and making this all possible. If not for Bill and Carol, this would not be possible. So thank you so much for truly making this the greatest decade in the history of the University of Tennessee Martin through your gift. Finally, I want to make a quick digression and just make a shout out to all of our faculty and staff here at the University of Tennessee Martin and all of our students. These are difficult times, but they're persevering, they're showing up, they're finding ways to make things work. Most of our faculty are working twice as hard. They're having to do classes in person and virtual at the same time, but they're not complaining, they're getting it done. So I just wanted to let you know how much we all appreciate the tremendous work that all of you are doing. If we're going to make this the greatest decade in the history of the University of Tennessee, it'll be because of our faculty and staff. So thank you all so much. Finally, I want to introduce our next speaker, University of Tennessee Health Science Center graduate, a great supporter of the University of Tennessee, our Lieutenant Governor, Randy McNally.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here, and I do want to give a special shout out to John Stevens. I was chair of Finance Committee at the time, and my job was to say no to everything. And John came to me with the possibility that Mr. Latimer would donate $6.5 million, but that wouldn't be the 25% needed to match. And so he was able to bring a bill. I think Andy Holt sponsored it in the House, and we were able to complete the project, or complete funding for the project. And I want to especially thank Mr. Latimer for his tremendous donation, and I really do appreciate his efforts. And I'm grateful to be here, and this is the second time on this campus, and I was a graduate from UT Health Science Center down the road. But thank you all for coming, and I greatly appreciate it. I think it's my job to introduce, man, in the 40 years I've been in state government, I've never seen a year like this. This is the worst possible year that we've had, but we've had a man that's been able to navigate it, and really our revenues are not as bad as we had predicted. And that's largely due to his efforts and Commissioner Ely, the head of Finance Administration. But a great friend and a great friend of education, Bill Lee. Great. Glad to introduce you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. There's a man that has served all of us for many years, great leader in this state, mentor to me, and certainly has helped me make my transition into state government much easier. Thank you for that. I'll add, too, that the members of the legislature that are here today, Representative White, John Stevens, Senator Stevens, Ken Yeager, Senator Yeager. I don't know if Representative Holt is here or not, but there is a commitment. These are men and women in our legislature that serve as public servants, and they are citizen legislators, and they sacrifice a lot of their time and their energy to make things happen. And what happens when they represent their people well is exactly what we're seeing here. Senator Stevens advocating for, in his community, something that would be life-changing for Tennessee, and that's what's happened here. There are so many great things about today. Starting with the beauty of this day, I think the Lord granted great favor to not only this university through the celebration of what we're talking about today, but even gave us the day to remind us of his favor. And he certainly granted favor to this university when he introduced the Latimers to it, or when they became as engaged in it as they have been. Thank you very, very much for your commitment here. It wouldn't have happened except for you. This building wouldn't be going up except for you. The lives that are going to be changed in that facility and in this region wouldn't be changed except for you. And we're very deeply grateful for that. It's, government can only do so much. A university can only do so much, but it's the people in the community that really transform it. We can create an environment, but then private sector and citizens have to step in to do the work transformation, and you've done so. So we're everyone in this community, and as a representative of people of Tennessee, we're really deeply grateful for that. Science and technology and engineering and math. I have a mechanical engineering degree myself. I worked in a STEM-related industry forever, so I used to be like these guys back here with the hard hats, standing behind. I was standing behind the rope because we built buildings like this, and it takes this type of education to not only bring forth buildings like this, but to develop the next generation of skilled workers, of folks that have the types of education needed for the next century and for the next generation. And you're doing that right here at the University of Tennessee in Martin. I am especially grateful for STEM-related education because that is a significant part of the future. And your commitment to that, and the commitment of this university to that education is going to be transformative to Tennessee. And one of the reasons why this is a special day to me, we drove through the country to get here. It's beautiful. And it's a reminder to me that what happens in rural Tennessee matters to every single Tennessean. I spent a lot of time in downtown Nashville, but what happens in rural Tennessee matters to everyone in downtown Nashville, whether they realize it or not. And the economies in this region are incredibly important. And when we can develop children and young adults and adults, when we can develop and create within them a skill set right here in their community or in the region that they want to get educated, so that businesses know that there's a skilled workforce right here in a rural region. So companies can come here, students can stay here, economies can thrive here, and the entire state will benefit because of that. None of that would be happening except for what's happening right now. So it's great for the university system. It's great for UT Martin. Great for this region. Most importantly, it's a great day for the state of Tennessee. I am grateful for all the partners that are represented here, and all the folks that had anything to do with this happening. As Randy said, it's the beginning of a new decade. And, many would say that we're in these challenging times and it's tough and, worrisome and I don't know where we're headed. Here's what I think. God takes the most challenging days in our lives personally and in a community, and he uses it to transform us for good. The best days are ahead for us. And we will learn so much through the challenges that we're facing right now about how it is that we can live on the other side of this, including the way we educate our young people. And I'm excited about the future of UT Martin. I'm excited about the future of this building, the lives that are going to be changed here. Thank you very much.
Governor, thank you. Much like the foundation being built behind us today, the Latimer building the Latimer family has been building a foundation of support for improving the lives of others for many decades. Their history with UT and with this campus began in the 1930s when Bill's uncle attended UT Junior College. Bill followed in 1958 at the UT Martin branch, and William and Douglas, the third generation of Latimers at UT Martin, graduated in the early 1980s. Bill and Carol truly understand the vital role education plays in changing the trajectories of families, strengthening communities, and developing future leaders. Like many of the speakers and dignitaries who are here today, they value the role that the University of Tennessee Martin plays in the economic development of West Tennessee. Recognizing the ways this new building will contribute to the transformational experiences of our students, Bill provided the lead gift for this building that enabled us to secure the matching funds from the state. Today, because of Bill's incredible leadership and generosity, we are officially breaking ground on this great new facility. Over the next 100 years or more, the teaching, the mentoring, the learning, and the research done in this new building, bearing the Latimer name, will change the lives of literally thousands of people, and it will prepare them to contribute to the growth of this region and the state of Tennessee. I can't think of a greater legacy. I can't think of any greater gift to a community than to make that possible. It is now my great honor to invite to the podium the person who has made it a lifelong mission to help others and the reason that we are here, Mr. Bill Latimer.
Thank you. Governor Lee, Maria, President Boyd, the governor, and Chancellor Carver in absence. I did talk to Keith yesterday, and he said that he was very sad that he could not be here today, but he would make sure that we had great weather. So when you see Keith, you can tell him thanks for the great weather. 60 years ago, I graduated from the University of Tennessee in Knoxville with an industrial engineering degree. Went through the ROTC program with the Army. In September of 1960, I was assigned to the Aberdeen Proving Grounds in Maryland. In my unit there was a young man who had just graduated from Vanderbilt with a mechanical engineering degree. He was a young man who worked very hard, was honest, and a person with high integrity. And we became friends. His name just happened to be Ted Lee, our governor's uncle, and his wife's name was Sonia. Who would have realized that someday my Army friend would have a nephew that would become governor? I believe that at that time, Governor, that you were less than 1 year old, and your birthday would be October the 9th this year, so you then would be 61. Is that correct? Okay, thank you. I wanted to mention this because little did I know that he was your uncle until late. Time really, really flies when you are my age. It goes pretty fast. I would like to highlight this morning 3 reasons of why we are here and give you a little history of the events that took place in Bob Smith's 19 months and 1 day as Chancellor of the M. Bob, if you will come on up and sit down here, please. The first reason happened in March of 2016. The legislators passed a bill that said that any new building, or at least this building, that was built at UTM would only need a 10% matching private funds in order to get the building built. Today, I would like to again thank John Stevens and Andy Holt, our senator and representative at that time, for getting this bill passed. And I think I would like to give John a round of applause here. Second reason is Dr. Joe D. Pietro, president of UT at that time, went to Bob Smith's home and talked him out of retirement. Bob had just retired as president of a much larger university in Pennsylvania. On June 1st, 2015, Bob became interim chancellor of the University of Tennessee, with one of his main goals at that time was to increase enrollment. Little did he know that a much bigger problem was about to show its ugly head. Accreditation. December the 9th, 2015, only 5 months, a few days after Bob became a chancellor, UTM was placed on probation by the SACSCOE. Don't ask me what that stands for, but some people here will know. To lose your accreditation is a death sentence to any university. And then 4 months later, as we said earlier, March 2016, that was when the bill was passed to have only a 10% matching gift versus the normal 25% matching gift of private funds. We knew there was no way that Chancellor Smith could spend the time that he needed to solve the probation problem and to raise funds at the same time. In April of 2016, Bob and I had an hour meeting in his office where we extended to him the offer for us to fund the 10% matching gift. So he then would have much more time to spend on the probation issue. December the 6th, 2016, almost 1 year to the date that UTM was put on probation, UTM received an acknowledgement that they were off probation. Mission accomplished. Then in January the 2nd, 2017, only 3 weeks and a few days later, Bob retired after 19 months and 1 day as interim chancellor. 2 months later, the UT Board of Trustees removed the name interim chancellor, and Bob was named the 10th chancellor of the University of Tennessee at March. In my opinion, Dr. Joe could not have hired anyone as good as Bob to solve all of the problems that came up during his short time as a chancellor. And let's give Bob a round of applause. Bob, stand up. Would you like to say a few words? Okay, now, I have about 30 seconds later at your ending, but just come on up and talk.
I just learned a real advantage of wearing a mask is you cannot see, you blush, and you cannot see sort of the embarrassment. Bill, it's been 4 years in reaching this point. And your recollection of the dates is matters here. Because it was September the 19th, 2015, that you signed the final agreement that was put together by John Warner and you. And that means it would be a celebration 4 years tomorrow. And on September the 20th, Rich Helgeson, who was the then Dean of Engineering and Natural Sciences, signed that, and we forwarded it. I can identify some other dates, and I'm going to take a little bit of a liberty because in 4 years, Bill and I have talked about this day and what we would say. And there's one story that I promised him that I would tell about that day in on April the 22nd. And I want to back up a few days because this is really a story that fulfills a famous quote by Voltaire, that faith consists in believing when it is beyond the power of reason to believe. And Lieutenant Governor McNally, you're part of that story, because in March of 2015, you asked Anthony Haynes to come to your office because you had heard from the work that Senator Stevens was doing that it might be a good idea to have your faith in John's idea, which was a revolutionary and completely contrary to the rules of how we were financing public facilities. And your faith in Senator Stevens that you showed on that March day allowed him to go forward from the Senate and Andy Holt from the House. On April the 13th, the Senate of 2015, the Senate passed that because John and Anthony called me that day late in the afternoon to tell me that that happened. It was, in a sense, that unabiding faith that also brought us to April the 22nd. Between April the 14th, which was the day that actually both houses passed that bill, it was a real question as to how in 1 year we were going to raise this money. And a lot of people had said, well, you ought to go to Bill Latimer and talk with Bill about that. And I would not do that. And the reason that I would not do that, nor would I allow anybody from our staff to do that, was because I knew that the Bill and Carol Latimer Foundation was singularly focused on a particular vision and a particular mission for faith-based and Christian institutions such as Asbury and such as Union University. And I was not going to disrespect asking Bill to do something that I already knew wasn't going to be part of his philanthropy from that foundation. So on April the 22nd, when he came to my office at 4 p.m., he came in and he said, Bob, and he, as I learned later, was a little bit of the ironic humor that Bill can provide. moments that I've enjoyed, I wasn't ready for this one. Because he basically started the conversation by knowing, Bob, I know this building is important, but you know that Bill and Carol, or that the Bill and Carol Latimer Foundation cannot support that. And honestly, I sort of flushed with embarrassment because yes, I did know that. And I was wondering, okay, then what happened behind the scenes that would cause Bill to make this trip to my office to tell me something that I had known, and I was embarrassed that we had somehow violated what was one of my principles. So he had me at sort of the down moment there, and then he said just what he said here. He said, but this is important to West Tennessee. And John had made the argument that this was about economic development. It wasn't about building a building. And that it mattered to West Tennessee. And that it was going to have, as we had been arguing, it was going to have a tremendous impact on jobs and on the future of West Tennessee. And so he took me from that sort of low and he said, but you have other things that you've got to spend your time on and you cannot be diverted from that. So I'll take care of the match. I didn't know what to say. I know what I said. I said, Bill, we are not worthy of that faith, that belief in something that the power of reason did not support. Didn't say it quite that articulately. I blubbered it, actually. I said, we haven't earned that confidence in us. And he said, which is the measure of the man before you, he said, you'll get the job done. You don't need to be distracted by this. And then he said, we've got to keep this confidential until I'm in a position where we can make a public announcement about that. And a lot happened. I'm not going to drag you through all of this, but between April the 22nd, that conversation, and John Warner and me and Ricky McCurry from the UT Foundation worked on what the final documents would be in order to go to the Board of Trustees meeting in October. And not only had we broken new ground in terms of the way public finance would go, we had to break new ground in terms of the way that gifts had been accepted by the university and the conditions of naming as well. And so there was a period of time here in which there was a lot of going back and forth without anybody knowing that Bill and Carol had stepped forward to do this. And a lot of confidence and faith that somehow this was all going to work out. And so it was on October the 13th of 2015 that it appeared publicly for the first time in front of the Board of Trustees. And two people, Bill, I think we should give credit for are Sharon Price and Charles Wharton, trustees for the University of Tennessee at the time, but who also were the trustees' representatives to the UT Foundation. And it was Sharon and Bill and Charles' confidence in Bill and their abiding faith in him that they led the vote with the committee and later with the University of Tennessee trustees that on October the 13th, 2015, all of this became a reality. That date's important, not because that alone changed the future for the University of Tennessee at Martin in West Tennessee. That is the same date that Chancellor Keith Carver was named chancellor for the University of Tennessee at Martin. And it's a real regret that Keith is not here today, but he is where he should be as a role model for how we address concerns that are in front of us now. But Keith is the future of the University of Tennessee at Martin, University of Tennessee at Martin as well. And so Voltaire was right, that it is faith beyond the power of reason that men and women have in each other. And it is the collective of all of these various relationships that happened over that period of time. But no one showed greater faith and a greater commitment than Bill Latimer. Thank you, Bill.
Bob, thank you for those very kind remarks. As I mentioned earlier, there were 3 reasons. The first reason was the matching gift. The second reason was Bob Smith. And we have one more reason. And Carol, come on up here, please. Carol and I believe that when God has blessed you, that you need to use His blessings to bless others. God has blessed both of us much more than we could ever expect, and much, much more than we deserve. And God's blessings is the reason that Carol and I are up here today. Before we pick up the shovels, I would like to ask Reverend Jimmy Latimer to come up and give a blessings for the safety of the people working on the building, the young men and women that attend this campus, all the employees of the university, and all that are in attendance today.
Thank you, Bill, and distinguished guests. I did a little homework last night and discovered that the foundation of the University of Tennessee was Blount College, and that the first 2 presidents of that institution that became the foundation for the University of Tennessee were both ministers of the gospel. Also, I studied about this place, the beginning of the Hall Moody Institute, which was literally started by the Tennessee Baptist Association, and those first leaders were also ministers of the gospel. Bill's great-great-grandfather and my great-great-grandfather came to West Tennessee from Sumner County, Tennessee in 1853, Obion County. And one of the first things they did was give land and build the Beach Cumberland Presbyterian Church and the Beach Cumberland Presbyterian School. One of the graduates of that school was a young man who went on to West Point, and under the asking of President Harry Truman, was the man who put together and gave us the CIA. The Latimer family has been involved a long time in education and also in our faith. So I'm going to ask that we bow our heads now for a word of prayer. Our God and our Father, as Bill has already suggested, we should pray for these workers behind us here, for their safety. Pray for continuation of good weather, and and for the speedy building of this building, which will be a great boom to this area. Father, we want to pray for the staff and the faculty and the teachers, the administration, those who clean the buildings and those who keep the grounds, and those who do all the behind-the-scenes work and are sometimes never thanked for it. We want to thank them in advance and ask your blessings upon them. And of course, Father, we also pray for the students who will be coming in these years to this school. And we also believe that, as Bill has already stated, that it's because of our faith in the Lord Jesus Christ and the Christian commitment and the Christian worldview and of the importance of education that this school will have a tremendous impact, and we continue to ask your blessings on it. I pray, Lord, for Bill and for Carol, for the way in which you provided through them to do this for our state and our community. And Father, so we know that in the years to come, if we stand on those original principles and have the same kind of generous spirit that my family has been able to give to the school, this will indeed be a blessing, a great blessing to many people. We ask your blessings on all these activities today, upon our state, and of course, upon the United States of America. In Christ's name, amen.
I believe now we're going to move down and do the actual time with the shovel.
Also, if everyone would stay in your position, we would like to ask Representative or Senator John Stevens, Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally, Chairman Mark White, and Senator Ken Yeager, if you would please come forward.
Mr. Latimer, do you mind putting your hands on the shovel for me? Good. All right, everybody right here. 1, 2, 3. Keep looking here. And one more. Great.
And we would also like to ask if the elected officials would step out, except for the governor, and we'd ask Richie Smith, Chris Edwards, Bill Ash, Frank Waxter, Mike Bilderback, and Matt. Okay, there you are. If you all would step in, this is our last photo.
All right, everyone, here, looking right here. 1, 2, 3. Good hit. 1, 2, 3. Hold on.
Oh, in just a second, we'll have one more to join you. Nathan, 1 second.
Come, yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, looking here. And one more. Great, thank you.
This concludes our celebration. There is refreshments on the sidewalk as you're heading toward Gooch Hall. Shuttle service will be provided immediately following this service. Thank you.